Jeffrey Epstein's victims are suing Deutsche Bank and JP Morgan Chase. The class action lawsuits allege the banks knowingly benefited from, quote, assisting, supporting, facilitating, and otherwise providing the most critical service for the Jeffrey Epstein sex trafficking organization to successfully rape, sexually assault, and coercively sex traffic, end quote. That the banks were unaware of Mr. Epstein's criminal activities seems unlikely to a lot, as Mr. Epstein admitted to felony prostitution of a girl under 18, along with dozens of other sex crimes involving children in 2006, was sentenced to 18 months in prison in 2007. Joining us right now to discuss, Florida businessman, lawyer, and GOP strategist Ford O'Connell, and economist and Project 21 member Michael Austin. Ford, your thoughts on this?
Well, look, I think that the Epstein sex trafficking saga has been swept under the rug. We need to know, soup to nuts, who was involved. And I do agree, at least for the plaintiffs in this case, that essentially the real enablers here, if in fact it is, Deutsche Bank or JP Morgan, they do need to be held accountable, because we need to prevent this from happening again. This has gone on for years. It involved many, many high-profile cases. So, look, I don't know whether or not they're going to win this case, but I do know that they may be able to gain some serious evidence for other cases.
Yeah, Michael, your thoughts here.
This is a racket. I mean, hook, line, and sinker. When these elitist corporations and banks want to persecute religious nonprofits or push some extreme climate change dogma, they love calling it corporate social responsibility. But when we need these banks to exhibit true responsibility, stopping sex trafficking, protecting young girls and women, they can't be bothered. Well, you know what? I'm all in for this lawsuit. I want it public, and I want to send a message out there that corporate responsibility doesn't mean you push AOC policy points. It means that you protect women and you protect our humanity.
All right, I want to get to a religious gathering. University of Cambridge dean presented a sermon, get this, claiming that Jesus Christ could have been transgender. Among the proofs offered was the idea that Christ's side wound during the crucifixion makes him appear physically feminine. The dean responded to critics saying the claim that Christ was transgender was legitimate. This sort of thing, I'm guessing, Michael, offends a lot of Christians. I mean, that's if you take it seriously. If you don't take it seriously, you can just mock it. But this seems to be happening more and more, Michael. These people in positions of power, especially in academia, seem to go with this craziness.
It really is. There's no reasonable way to take from scripture, let's say Jesus was transgender.
Right.
Only woke revisionists can take a plain reading of the Bible. They can take 2,000 years of church history and say, meh, it doesn't count. It's just another attempt to deconstruct moral and biblical authority just using today's political controversies.
Yeah, Ford, I got to say this. The letters in red, they weren't pink, right? I mean, it's kind of a silly thing, but this gets promoted more and more these days.
Well, I think that Michael's absolutely right. When it comes to academia, nothing is sacred. And essentially, what's unfortunate here is when it comes to any of these woke agenda items, whether it's transgender, you name it, what academia is not concerned is they're not concerned with acknowledgement. They're trying to push acceptance. And unfortunately, this is how we have brainwashed the Western world. I mean, you hear stories all the time about how that agenda that they're pushing, that woke agenda, must come first. And it doesn't matter whether it's right or wrong, and they don't care who they trample on.
Yeah, and you also see, I don't understand, Michael, this push to get acceptance of trans people, which is fine. Why does it have to involve kids so often? I mean, you have the recent where they're showing kids dressed as like BDSM figures. You have drag shows for kids, which is a phrase I don't even think should exist, Michael.
No, you're exactly right. And to be honest, it's kind of sickening. The left and the right, we both used to agree, keep the kids out of it.
Right.
And yet these progressives and these woke revisionists just seem to be doing the opposite. But it just takes me back to the fact that there really is only one truth. And that is, we don't work to bend God's will to ours. We do the opposite. And so those who I think are using Jesus to put into some political vessel, they're not preaching truth. What they're trying to do is they're trying to court this woke left, the secular left, all for the sake of their own pride.
Final thought, Ford.
Well, that's exactly right. Michael's right. The socialists and the progressives believe that if you can indoctrinate the young children of the world, then you can change every single agenda, every single thing that is sacred. That's what this is all about.
So you think it goes beyond just trying to get acceptance?
Absolutely. This is a playbook for changing how the entire Western world thinks. And you see this all the time. You see this with the Chinese Communist Party with their own people. They've just adopted the CCP playbook here to change norms and culture, and they start with the children and it goes up.
All right, Ford, Michael, stand by if you